It's the evening aftermath of the Battle of Helgasker, and Sigstrik Bragison's hall is now host to you all as you feast and drink with pillaged food and ale amongst those who have survived the morning slaughter. And the names of the valiant slain have been toasted to, and brave tales told. And many groups descend into like drunken mirth and revelry, like glutting till they are sick and rolling back in their benches. Mostly Isklofen, like yourselves, amongst the two crews, though noticeably even some of the Asblode warriors who under Sigorm have found themselves here. And it is here while you all sit at the foremost bench either side of Ingvar and Skull that he leans forward, stifling a hiccup, a glaze to his eyes, sloshing his cup and says, "Well, we should determine the details of our agreement while we're on our cups now, Lord. And then tomorrow when we are sober, see the deal done. What say you?" And he like sits back and kind of gives himself like a sludge on the owl horn.
Yeah, Ingvar will wipe some grease from his beard and nod. That's the correct way to do things. Hammer out a deal when you're pissed and then look at it in the cold light of day with a miserable hangover and see if it's still a good deal. Much to decide, Skull.
You have honoured me with the half and these thralls well enough. Though I like the look of Sigorm's seahorse, I would have a half of that myself. I see that you are a man who wishes to be lord here, and that you would have these people call you Jarl. Well, these many thralls that I would take might be good to you. Perhaps I could sell them to you rather than that fat Zaylander.
That would be wise, I think. It would be difficult, I think, for you to load 130 onto your little ship and sail them all the way across to Rauthercletter and try and sell them. You'd have to make many trips. It would be very expensive. You'd have to pay me to feed them while you were gone. That would be expensive. We don't want that. Best that you sell them here, I think. And as for half a ship, you can't sail half a ship. And so there's probably another way that we can do things that'll make us both happy. Our deal was hinging upon you helping me in the fighting Sigorm. None of that came to pass. I'm not welching on this deal that we have made. You have been a good friend to me, and hopefully I to you. And so we'll find a good compromise between what was said and what happened.
Well, Blackhand, have you a figure in mind? He says, like eyeing a comely thrall walking past with platters of meat.
You've only one crew, and now I have many. He looks around at all the people here, many of the warriors now serving him, and those who aren't warriors are his thralls. These people belong to him, in effect. I have more need of that ship than you do. But I know it's expensive, and I know that thralls don't come cheap. What I do have now is lots of weapons, armor, things of that nature, which might be useful to you. But more than that, what I have is a town, safe place where you could come and rest, and a place where you could sell without paying a heavy tithe.
Those things would round the figure in my mind down a ways.
Let me think. And he'll like drum on the table as he like thinks a little bit. And he's thinking about like what the appropriate price for a non-combatant thrall is, which I guess he would know, though I don't.
Yeah, from your previous interaction with Carol Coincrow in Rauthercletter, it was like sometimes like 50 to 60 hack silver for an unskilled child, 100 to 150 for an adult thrall, and then beyond that, like 200 upwards for a skilled thrall. So it like varies wildly between like those figures, but that's the general ballpark of individuals. And of course, like elderly or like people who are useless or like have no value.
Yeah. So Ingvar would like think about the 130-ish thralls that are half, and he then tries to like think of how many of those would be useful to Skull, like men and women of like the kind of age and strength that would be able to like pull an oar or chop wood or like do hard labor. And so he's like trying to think of that, and he's like not really a man for numbers. So he would like look to Skull and say, "It's a lot to process, and my head is soup from all this ale. I hope you don't mind. I might ask one of my men to come and help with this situation."
Of course, ask your bondsman and favored Huskarls, and of course the Galderman. He'll be wisdomed witness to our eventual agreement, he says.
Good. So Ingvar will like put his hand up and like look to find Rake, and we'll do like a come here gesture, and then he'll like look around for Ranald, the thrall, and do the same sort of gesture.
Ranald would be pouring to Thrimnir's alehorn if he wishes it, and make sure that his plate's always heaped, and chases the hounds away from the bottom of his chair, and pretty much like tries to do his best to please his like silent and foreboding master. So when he like sees your call, he like gives a gulp and like moves away swiftly over foot, avoiding like the ruckus Northmen at their revelries to like come before you and give like a nod of his head, but within hearing, but not giving you eye contact.
Yeah, Rake catching the glance will do similarly, though much less hurriedly and worriedly perhaps than the thrall is. He'll catch the gesture, just wipe at his mouth, put the horn and the plate down before standing up and kind of sauntering forcefully through the other people to get over to where you are.
We have many things, Skull, that you might find interesting. I can't remember. Do we know that Braggy's spear is cursed? We have this like amazing boar spear. Do we know that it's cursed?
Oh yeah, you do. I'm pretty sure that you guys divined that earlier, but if not, since having Rake in the party would know that it's even though it looks like prized and well worthy boar spirit's cursed.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't give him a cursed thing. That's hardly a sign of friendship. So he'll think a little bit, and he'll say, "There's a couple of things that we could provide you that you wouldn't have to load your ship up so heavily. You wouldn't have to make several trips from here to Ruthercletter and back. Gold, I'm talking about."
You have gold, Blackhand, or you have been busy. I'd take gold. Gold is worth is proven true, especially in the soft lands.
Beyond
Eric will
that,
need gold.
he will. Beyond that, I can offer you that for a year and a day, you can come here to resupply at any time, and we will provide you with the supplies without you paying for them. I'll give you this gift as well as the ability to come here and not pay a tithe on anything that you sell, and free use of the smithy that I plan to create here in terms of repairs and maintenance of your equipment. Furthermore to that, I would say I could give you 4 golden discs of a great value.
He seems keenly interested in that and would view them if you can produce them.
Yeah, they're probably on the ship, but I imagine our stuff has like been brought now, like our ship's to the dock and whatnot. They would be under guard at all times, and I would have what's he called? The coughing
Fromund.
Fromund, yeah. Fromund would come, I guess, with them. These like 4 discs, which I think were probably coins for giants, but now are just like almost dinner-sized plates.
His eyes grow wide at that and his drunken state, and he like spills his ale horn, and a few around it kind of look across. He's like, "Wealth indeed, Black Hand. I will take these and your words and round down further the number in my head." He like taps his forehead a few times, gives another hiccup.
We must be approaching that number pretty quickly, I think, Blackhand will say with like a grin. Beyond that, I can supply all of your men with chain shirts.
Those Isclofin who'd served under Sigorm, my pick of those to reinforce the Ishalfer who were lost at Helgasker.
That is their decision to make, I think. Though I see no problem in you trying to recruit them. Though I will say that I will try to recruit them also.
Then perhaps 12 is better than 10. 12,000 hack silver and all you've mentioned seems half to me.
Yeah, he thinks about that for a second. Fine. Your pick then.
Your pick then, sorry, in relation to?
Of the men. I'll give him like first pick of the Asbloth warriors.
Then 10. 10,000. 10,000 is an easy thing. I'll take what you can pay for it and trust in friendship and your oaths that the rest will come when it can.
How close are we to that number then, do you think? Or is he happy with the deal as it stands now? Like with
everything that's been outlaid so far plus 10,000 hack silver.
Oh, on top? That's insane.
Yeah, Reynald would look uncomfortably, but not say anything.
Yeah, I think Rake would probably wouldn't be able to help but butt in, trying to be the third party. Surely all the promises that have been made, such an outrageous sum on top of all that, is excessive. Such a place like this is a lot, but it is not that much.
Let us not forget, Skull, that your son, up until very recently, spent his days drooling. Now he is well. That is my gift to you, if you recall. The deal that we made was quite specific, and it involved you helping me to fight against Sigorm, and you didn't do that because it didn't happen. Now I am giving you this deal out of friendship because I think that you and I could have a profitable friendship. But this is greed now. It's gone beyond what is necessary. I have given you much and more.
You've promised me much and more. That much is true. But also half the spoils of Helgasker was our agreement, whether Sigorm was in the equation or not. And so I think his ship, which you have claimed, is part of these spoils. Do you disagree?
I do disagree, Skull. I do. As I say, the deal that we made was very specific, and that deal has not been fulfilled. Legally, I'm in my rights to tell you to go and fuck yourself, that you didn't do what we asked. I wouldn't do that because, as I say, I want to be friends. And so I'm offering you a great deal of things now. You need to look in the long term, Skull. Coming here and being able to sell without any tithe is worth a lot more than you think. Coming here and resupplying for a year and a day is worth a lot more than you think. These golden discs are worth a huge amount of money.
2,000 each or so, I would wager.
Are they worth more than that? I have no idea.
I'm not sure either. Something like that.
You roll a history check.
Oh, I should actually pick up my dice. Yeah.
13.
It's a 12 on the die for me.
I might have a lot more than that.
I don't
Sorry,
have history.
History is in this cloth.
Oh,
Lore-wise.
13
Lore-wise,
for me.
right?
Oh, perfect. 18.
Yeah, Rake, you would have seen some of these from the wealthier merchants users trade for like large credits, like deposits and things like that for ships and land. And the 2,000 is like a safe estimate for like a gold disc of that size.
So what
You
he
were
said is accurate then?
Yeah, he's not lying or like inflating the like what they're worth. They're magnificent
I
and
think
obviously
I think I would see the look of like concern and like the cogs turning in Ingvar's head of like, is that right? And Rake would just kind of put a hand on your shoulder for a second, kind of reassuring, with a slight nod that like, yes, as much as we would like it to be more, that's about standard.
Skull, you are so much richer now than you were several days ago, and all of that is because I invited you to come and do this with me. All of it. If it wasn't for me, your son would not be well, and you would have none of this wealth. I'm offering you a great deal of wealth, even though the deal was not completed.
Oh, Helgasker is yours, friend. We agreed that half the spoils would go to me. If I'm to give you my thralls back and need silver for them, these promises you give me, of course, I savour them well and factor them, even in my state. But what can I give my men who are left? These words will not be enough for them. They need silver if they're not to have thralls. And I thought 10,000 fair enough not to make you wroth. But I see it as, and I wish not to do so more. We can speak of this another time, if you wish.
I don't want this to sour what is happening, the joy and the excitement. But you ask for much. Too much, I think. I cannot give you that amount of money, or else I will not be able to run this place.
Well, the arms and armour you mentioned, I could needs must put that to good use. And this pick you offer me. And perhaps I could sell you back half the thralls and find a figure more convenient for you.
I'm trying to piece it together. Like, we don't have 10,000 hack silver to give him. Nowhere near it. It also seems like a crazy high number for him to be asking for.
As far as like to pass just through Rake anyway, given his insight before, like the amount of thralls he has sold at like a reasonable price in Rauderklatter, even with the tithes factored in, and the worth of half a snecker would put the figure at about 20,000 initially. So given the discs you've given and the other offers, has taken it down to 10,000 hack silver. Like, it may seem like a crazed amount, but that's like what the worth has like been.
Yeah, I just don't know how.
Used to on his behalf.
I don't even know how we could. Like, we don't have, unless we gave him all of the golden discs. We don't have that kind of money. Like, we can't produce it from nothing. We don't have it, you know. So I'm trying to figure out how we can do it without, like, we sell the ship, I guess. Then we only have one ship for a lot of men. Maybe that's fine.
Yeah, you could do that. Both of you could take it to Rauderklatter and sell it, and then split the worth. You wouldn't get as much, but like, it'd be cash straight up.
Either that or you let him take the thralls and sell them instead of him basically selling them to us.
Well, we need them to run the town, you know. Yeah. Like, who's going to till the fields and chop the wood and, you know, do all that stuff in the town? Unless we only sold him like the children and the old people, but then he wouldn't get any money for them. So then it's nothing, you know. If I sold him if I gave him the entire ship, That would probably cover it, would it? Like if I gave him the ship.
So I value that at about 14,000 hack silver, give or take. So that with like the crew that you're offering over to him selling you back the thralls, that would cover it. That would actually be that would cover it and be a sweet deal for him as far as like an onset of the negotiation goes.
Because he was asking for like 10,000 more, right?
10,000 more, yeah.
Mhm.
So we could take back two of the discs.
That's exactly what I was thinking. So 2 discs, but he gets the ship.
Yeah.
And we keep all the thralls.
Yeah, we just need those people. Like, I don't think it's negotiable. We can't run the town without them.
Yeah, I agree.
And we can like eventually buy another ship if we want to. In fact, we have the money to buy another ship with the gold discs if we really want to. And we need people here protecting the town and stuff. So I think like that's probably the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, it
so
definitely sucks to lose a ship, but
Yeah.
I think in this weighing scales of this place, I think that might be the best thing to drop.
So Ingvar will scratch his beard and think, and he'll like look at the discs on the table before him and like pick up one and place it near him and then another and say, these 2, the things previously outlaid, and you could take the ship.
He thinks for a while and then nods again, seeing the same comely thrall walk past, the platter emptied now. Oh, that sounds sweet enough, friend. Sweet enough indeed. She'll fetch a fine price to some ambitious sea wolf.
And she will. Ingvar will like spit in his hand and offer it to Skull.
He'll spit swiftly to match the handshake and then give like a reeking smile and laugh. Hard but fair, Black Hand. Well spoken. And they'll like gesture to like a nearby thrall to fill up the cup.
And you. That's the hard work out of the way. Let's get fucking pissed.
He puts his chin into his neck and raises his glass to you. Or his ale horn and drinks deep. Several of the men nearby will like yell at someone who's known to have a good voice to like stand up and sing. And after the first verse, many like drunken voices will join into it.
In the festivities, Ingvar's going to try and find Anthramnir.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't find them that far away from the main table, to be honest.
Yeah, he'll squeeze in, like shying one of the people away and sit opposite Anthramnir and like hand a full horn of mead. What do you want, Anthramnir?
What?
What do you want? Why are you on the crew? What are you after?
I only live for one thing. I live for death. To deal it is my gift. To evade it is my curse. I will tear the world apart and asunder until my hands are left but bloody stumps from the task, or until I am cut down and free. I will follow those who slaughter for their own gain, who can call men to them as I could not, and spread death wider and further afield.
Ingvar like looks around him at the people, and I can imagine like many of the people sitting around have like gone quiet and like look in that direction.
Yeah, little Tor puts his huge hand up to the amulet around his throat, and a few men who are like crying, laughing, like suddenly like sputter into an awkward silence.
My gift, I think, is to know what men want and to make promises of those things to them. That's how I have gotten all of this. It's how I have found my way here. It's how I have become lord of this place. I do not know if I can give you what you want. I don't think I understand it.
You have to kill to build. You have to kill to maintain. It all comes down to killing and dying.
Suppose so. A great scale that has to be balanced here and there. Ingvar doesn't really know what to say. His plan was to come over here and ask what Anthrimnir wanted and then make promise of it, which is what he's done with basically everybody. And now he looks a little confused. But if it's death you seek, then I can put you in the front line of the shield wall every time. And I'm sure there'll be no shortage of killing. There's a lot of that ahead of us, I think.
I think for the first time he'll actually turn his head to look at you properly and raise his cup. Give it a quaff. And there is a wry smile that plays across his face for a moment or two before he goes back to his usual stoic demeanour.
Ingvar will nod and stand, and as he walks away, he'll grip the Thor's amulet around his neck and go to try and quickly forget what he had heard.
Kjartan, you're nearby. You probably see this going on, but can't hear the converse between the captain and the berserker. Either side of you, Mute Stein listens on, while Sulcy the rower ribs you, both in their cups, obviously, while opposite you sits Asgrim Broken Nose and Brecky the Poxed, crewmen all of the Sio Hester, and have rode alongside you. And they've just finished lamenting the fall of Jorgen Pate. And Sulcy asks, "Who saw Vegrim Huldson fall?" And they look between themselves, shrugging, and it strikes you. You remember in the spear din in the shield shake, Kjartan. You remember how Velgrim stood and fell and did his father Huld proud. They see this recognition across your face. They'll jibe you and rib you. Tell us. Tell of his fate. His last moments. And they'll sit back, lean forward in their benches, eagerly listening. And then the way that other people have been forced to sing around the hall and tell tales, it's emboldened the drunk men at each table to kind of replicate it themselves in between their companions at the bench.
Kjartan kind of sucks his teeth, kind of leans back. We oftentimes tell these tales, glorify those that fall. There's no glory in how he died. And he smiles wryly at the men, probably when he sees their shocked faces. He goes, I'm fucking with you all, of course. I was there, saw it all. It seemed as though we fought with the strength of 10 men. Would have probably given him a run for it. And he points to Anthrimnir, knowing full well that that's bullshit. Took 3 spears in the belly, but he still fought on. So he was possessed by. something. His mind starts to drift a bit. He thinks back to the witches. He has a shudder. Clears his throat. Looks across the men. He goes, I'll tell you this, though. I hope when I meet my end, I hope it can die as well. And he smiles. Don't we all?
Yeah, the men will smile too and agree and say aye, 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 except for Mute Stein, who just nods, and they'll all raise their cup and drink at it. And Knut the wagerer will like pillage the tray of a nearby thrall for some for a mead pitcher, and like squish in next to you guys at the bench and say, "What's this young one spouting? I'll wager it's shite." And they'll talk about the fall of Vagram to him, and he'll drink and spill a bit on the floor as well. And a few of the hounds will rush over to lap up the froth. Next to you, Egret, while you watch all this at play, you've almost forgotten the person opposite at the bench from you, till he leans eerily and slowly forward, says in like a croaking, garbled voice, "Who was it? Who was it you killed?" And points to your neck. And it turns you from watching the rest, or like where your brother had gone in the hall, Egret, to Eric, son of Skull, pallid, bony, half toothless and ugly to behold, scar-faced and milk-eyed, dressed as a Jarl's son, but looking like a crippled leaving.
If it was anyone else, Egret would have pulled her knife out quick, slammed it on the table between his fingers. But this boy, "'tis none of your business."
So many here, to which slaughter comes easy. And even the boast and jibe of it, and he'll point like a bony, half-crooked finger, like a white spear, off to one of the benches where you can see a man like vomiting off the side of it, while three others talk about a brutal fight earlier in the morning. But you, so tight-fisted with your slayings.
All of them. But surely even you ask. Or have your wits not?
The great woe of my affliction was that my wits never left me. I'm sorry to have probed. And he'll lean back, creaking into his wheelchair.
Egret is uncomfortable. It's rare that anyone makes mention of it. It certainly does not ask her directly. Jit, and look around for Ingvar.
You can see him like rise up from one of the warriors' benches beyond the leaving end, Thrimnir, for Ranald to return to. And yeah, he moves away into like the center of the long hall. Yeah, so
Yeah,
the
so-
feast will sorry, you go.
No, she'll full cup and then take one to Ingvar and try and forget the moment.
Yeah, and if there's nothing else that any of you wanted to do, the night would pass much more like in this fashion, lots of drinking, revelry, visits to the vomitorium and such, and glorification of blatant wholesale murder. The next morning, Skull and his men will take their wounded aboard their ship, and with a skeleton crew, man the other vessel to begin to tow it in and out into the Yolwelder Bay, and then off by that afternoon, out of sight of Helgasker, after the deal being reviewed upon sobriety is agreed to inside of witness by way of the Galderman rake. And then there is a great many things to see to in the writing of Helgasker. The previous steward, an older man by name of Wilglist, is brought to you. Ingvar and whoever companions you have with you in the hold the next day. Along with the widow and young son of Sigthric Bragison. But now most of your Carls and Huskals have established themselves billeted across the town with a certain number of thralls beneath each of them, serving them with the occupation of Helgasker.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that Ingvar would have seen to is taking the people who matter, Huskarls, people who have served him well over the years or who are of high station, and basically putting them in charge of a section of the town. So a farmstead or something like that, so that each farmstead now has a one of our men in charge of it.
Carl. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine all of the thralls of the town, the 264 plus of them, are split out depending on rank between each of your Carls and Huskals and their corresponding land.
Yeah, exactly. So each person will be each of our crew will be in charge of a household, and then our Huskars will be in charge of if you look at the map, there's different sections or whatever, in charge of a different suburb or whatever,
Sure, yeah, you can spend the better part of the morning establishing that from the crew of the Siohester who have survived.
So Ingvar will be sitting, I guess, nursing his hangover, eating something greasy, and drinking cold water, as cold as he can get it. When these people are brought in, and he would look up, bleary-eyed.
You said yesterday afternoon, Lord, that you wanted them brought to you.
That's right. That's right. So Wilglist was the steward?
Yeah, he's a scrawny man, stoop-backed, balding, grey-haired. He stands a couple of steps behind the widow and son of Sigthric.
Your husband fought well. Seemed a likable sort. And just. Shame he had to die. I don't blame you for his resistance. And so no harm will come to you.
She looks genuinely surprised at that. The boy just looks like he's been crying for the last 2 days.
How old is the boy?
8 or 9 by your look.
Oh, what's the boy's name?
Bragi Sigthrikson, Lord, she says, voice trembling.
He'll look at the boy. Are you strong?
He sniffles and nods.
How strong? Come here.
He'll step forward, and his mother looks filled with dread and fear, and will like take a step forward before little Tor will put a hand on his shoulder and
I don't
pull
mean
her
him.
back.
He'll give her a look. I don't mean him any harm. And Ingvar will like put his hand on the table as if to arm wrestle the boy.
He looks back to his mother, who just looks like fraught with worry, and then he'll go back to put his tiny hand into yours.
3, 2, 1. And hold, like Ingvar will just hold his hand there and see how much the boy gives it.
As much as he can after a while, and as he like struggles and strains and realizes the futility, like an angry, like glowering look comes into his eyes as the last days catch up to him, and almost like a viciousness causes him to like push, and he makes the chair scrape beneath him.
I'll grin at that, and then I'll slam his hand down and hold it there.
He'll cry out and set to crying again.
Enough of that. Someday, maybe you'll be strong enough to beat me, but you're not now, and you won't be for a long time. Your father wasn't strong enough to beat me, and your uncle wasn't strong enough to beat me. But there's lessons to be learned. And so you have 2 choices before you, boy. One of them is to become a slave, to go around and do backbreaking work like all the other boys. And he'll scratch his beard. The other option is you come and be my servant. You clean my sword. You help me put on my armor. You listen and you watch, and then maybe one day you'll be strong enough to kill me.
He looks back and forth from his mother to you and is like wondering,
Don't
like
look
she
at
is
her.
what the barb is. He'll shiver and then look back to you.
He'll shout at him, "Don't look at her. Look at me."
Yeah, he will after a while, trying to like have some defiance pierce through like the snotty nose and roomy eyes.
What will it be then? Will you be a slave? Will you bow and cry and weep like a little child? Or will you join me?
I would rather be a warrior like my father than a slave.
Good.
The thralls are all wretched.
They are wretched, pathetic. But that could be you. And your father allowed that to happen. I hope that you know that I will never become that. I would die first. Nonetheless, you can serve me.
And my mother, he goes to turn to look back at her, but then like wrenches himself from doing so.
What would you have of her?
She needs a house and a woman to weave and help her with her. And a strong man from the village to always help her, like father would set when he went to his duty.
Why does she
That's
deserve
what I would
these
want.
things?
She's wise, and she's a Then's wife, and she's even met the Jarl.
She's not a Then's wife anymore. Then is dead.
She's a Then's widow.
Call me Lord.
Yes, Lord, he says, like he's just been chided.
Good. He'll let go of the boy's hand. You then. What is your name? The woman.
Yadewith, if it please, Lord, she'll say, trembling, and like she quickly recollects her boy back to her arms, like protectively.
Yadewith. It does not please me. Southerners have such disgusting names. Nonetheless, what can you do for me? Why should I give you a house and a woman and a man to look after you? What can you do for me?
She looks down worriedly at her son and then back to you and says, "Anything you would have of me, Lord."
That's what a thrall can do for me. That's what everyone does for me. Whatever I want. I'm asking what you can do specifically that others cannot. What do you know of this place? What do you know of the people around it? Of the Jarl? Things like that. Do you know these things? Did you listen to all the times when your husband was doing Thane's work?
No, of course not. The men of the coast do not heed their women when they are at the thing. Though I listen well enough to the wives and widows and sisters of the Thegns of Goldenfleece, so no part of their mind, and more than measure than I'd like of their gossip, Lord. And I know the names of them and their places. And I know my husband's accounts and the running of this place. Why your men feast so at the tables now, stocked by my overwatch, these larders, while my husband and son away to serve at the Jarl's behest. And of course, by son, she does not refer to Braggy, whom you've sworn.
Mm-hmm. So the implication is that they have another son, an older son, who's not here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Can you read?
I can read. My father was an iron eye, and I learned his books to keep ship, for I was wed with handsome dowry to Sigthric.
Maybe you can be useful. I need you to understand. I muted myself there. I need you to understand your situation. Help is not coming, will not come. Your grown son will not come back here and save you. You need to put those thoughts aside. Thoughts of revenge, thoughts of being saved. That will not happen.
My thoughts are only for Braggy, Lord.
Good. He is in my custody now, and he will be at my side at all times.
If no harm is to come to him and you treat him kindly, Lord, I would serve you as I tried to my husband.
I don't intend to harm this child. As I say, he is blameless in what happened. And I think it's useful that you know that he is under my thumb, that I could, if I wanted to, kill him at any time. He'll serve me.
Thank you, Lord, she says, tears beginning to fall.
You'll know best if there's a house that you can stay in. The long haul is mine now. You'll not stay here anymore. But somewhere there will be a house that you can stay in. I'll put one of my men to guard you.
She nods, and little Tor nods as well, knowing that that means that he's meant to go do that.
Yeah.
And if you don't probe them further, he'll grab them both and escort them out of the long hall. Their long hall. What was their long hall? To some lesser place. And Glist will look with wretched piteousness thick about him, wondering if he'll soon to be enthralled or murdered, or who can tell with the Northerners.
And you there, what did you do?
I served the Thane's household, Lord, and kept stock his pantries, assisted him in his duties, and taxations and such. I worked well with the law speaker, the Gothi. Gods rest him.
He was flung into a pit by our Gothi. Seems the gods admire us more than your old Gothi.
They do, Lord, he says.
And so you know the running of this place. You know how much there is of everything, and this kind of Ingvar does this gesture of wankery, whatever boring shit bureaucrats do.
Oh, I know the folk, the freemen, and what tithes they must pay, and the figures kept by the Lord, yes, and can read some small amount, though not as well as the Lady Aidwith. and I knew much of the law speaker's mind before fate.
Useful information. Ingvar will turn to look at Reek. This is the kind of information that you need to know. Or maybe Ranald. Someone. We have to have someone who knows these things and keeps track of these things.
Yeah, Rick will kind of stifle a slight frown. If this is in addition to the other duties that I have to you as a warrior, as a Galder, maybe much just for one man. I will not deny your orders if you say it so, but perhaps an assistant.
The thing is that we have so few who care about this drivelry. I have no interest in it. None of our men care to count beans. But I think that this really is how you win wars and how you conquer the world. It's through bean counting, more so than valor on the field. You have to keep your people fed. Ranald is good at this stuff.
Yes, perhaps he does have a good mind for it, with a little bit extra assistance from the townspeople, perhaps things that I can speak with him on. We might be able to groom him into a worthy steward.
All right then, Wilglist. You have much information, and it's important that we continue things as they are. There's a lot of work to be done. We have a lot of people to feed, a lot of money to make. We can't be killing people left, right, and center, or else we'll starve in the winter. So you'll keep doing your duties, but in the meantime, you will mentor Rake here, as well as Ranald, in the running of this place.
Oh, I will, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, good. Off you go.
Yeah, he'll scurry away.
So then Ingvar will gather most of the crew, certainly Kjartan and Ygritte, Rick, and Anthrimnir. And he'll go through a list of things that have to be done as soon as possible. One of which is the rebuilding and the manning of the watchtowers to ensure that those are up to scratch. We need to have horns at each watchtower, as well as a fire that can be lit, so that no one can do what we did and sneak in. That would be the first thing. Then I would want Kjartan to go north and explore the routes that lead up into the land itself, and if what the routes are to come to our city or our town, and how we can protect those from the land. Those would be the two really big things. Other than that, I would want to begin setting up or getting the people back to work. Certainly the smithy needs to be working at all times. We want to start getting the word out that we have a lot of stuff to be done, that there's a town here now that's open to Iskolfin. We need to create room for those people when they arrive. So we need to set up a sort of shanty town near the docks where people can come, and we need to have ale houses there. We need to have all of the stuff that comes along with having many sailors arrive at once. So he would say that to the group and to see what they have for ideas.
Yeah, Rake would speak up. If there is time between mentoring of Ranald and learning the general bureaucracy of the town here, I can also assist with the smithy. Come from Iron Eye lands, I've learned the arts. You'll have a tough time finding as good of a forge man as me. I can help get that place up and running too. Ensure that it's efficient. Well served.
I think Kjartan snorts maybe louder than he intended at that last piece from Rake.
Ingvar looks between the two of you like, is there some shit going down here that I need to be aware of?
Yeah, Rake would raise an eyebrow too in confusion, as if to say if there is, he's not aware of it.
Seeing it, he laughs. He says, "You damn iron eyes, always thinking you are the best smiths in Eastclough." And then he laughs, and you hear the thickness of his accent, him being an iron eye as well. He's just having fun.
Yeah, catching that, Rake would stifle a laugh and just kind of give him a nod of understanding. Well, when you're good, and you know it.
He definitely nods an affirmation to that. He knows the skill of our people.
And we need to draft letters to Isbjorn, to Thormund. Oh, is that his name?
Thormar, yeah.
Yeah. And to Maga. To like inform them what's happened and basically get the word out that there is a settlement here now that the Isgolfin can use. We want people coming here as soon as possible to take their money. Because there's a safe place now that they can rest, basically, which is a big deal.
How will you send out letters, like send someone with your ship to go deliver messages to them all?
So between here and, like, there's no land route, right? Because you have to go past Manavik.
You have to go over those mountains to get to Manavik by land. Or go all the way around that spit in the middle that ends with the Fane of Ran.
Okay, so we'd have to really send... I guess we would have told Skull to, like, spread that word, I suppose, is the best way.
Yeah, he'll do so when he goes to Rudderclutter to try and sell that long ship.
Yeah, I don't know. We couldn't look. We can't really send a crew to go and spread word and whatnot because we need them here for now.
What word are you sending or wanting to spread?
Basically, that we are here. That there's now an Isgolfin settlement here, and that people can come here to sell their goods and whatnot, and like rest and like it's rather than always going all the way south, you know.
What is the trek by land, time wise?
I imagine a good couple of days to go to the mountains and like to skirt around the top half of that coastline, and then maybe a day or two to go around the following side of the cove. So what, 4 or 5 days all up? Probably about a similar amount of time through the mountains, though the mountains are a bit more risky.
I mean, you could always send 1 or 2, or maybe 2 or 3, considering the risk. Just to drop that word into the main town.
Yeah, I guess ideally we want Coin Crow to come here for at least for a little bit, and we want like the crews who are unaware or who maybe don't have the money to sell at the huge tithe that Isbjorn requires. We want to get the word out quietly that our tithe is not as high as the one in Rathacletter. We don't want to make a huge... Sorry, you go.
Manavik to the south is still held by a Thegn. It's not held by any Isgolfin.
Yeah.
So not any point sending messages there anyway, like south over those mountains.
Yeah, it's to Rathacletter that we need to send people.
You just don't want to get in this beyond bad side.
That's the danger, yeah. We don't want to be loud about the fact that we're undercutting his tithe, but we are undercutting his tithe.
As far as Carol and any kind of merchants would go, that would like word would spread like wildfire through Skull when he sells his ship, you'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'd be more trying to attract people from Scalaholt, or that other little town that's down there in the south, which probably isn't going to be too great of a market at this stage anyway.
Actually, that's a point. Is Skull left yet?
He did leave, as I mentioned earlier, like he sailed out into the bay and then off. But if you wish to speak with him earlier, then or say this stuff, then we can retroactively say that so, because you did have a night and half a day with him after the battle. He'll take that word.
That's Loy's domain.
Yeah, we would have definitely told Skull to spread the word and whatnot, I think.
Sure.
It would just be clear, I think, though, like you say, when he sells the ship.
Yep.
It'd be impossible not to have him gossip, I think.
Yeah, you think Rattleclouder will know by the time Skull's finished his last ale of the night after getting there, that everyone will know that you rule now in Helgasker and of the slaughter there and the death of Sigorm and Sigthric and of your ascendants from captain to Thegn.
So I would say the most important things that we can do now are get those watchtowers up and guarded and build a shanty town as quickly as possible so that when people arrive, they have somewhere to go that isn't my long haul or the local farmsteads. We don't want them. We don't want reavers hanging around our thralls or our villages, so we need to have somewhere we can contain them basically at the docks. We need to build another dock, certainly. So that would be the big thing, I think, or the most important thing.
Yeah, certainly you can have thralls detailed up to go to the Bardskoga to the north of here and fell lumber to begin rebuild the docks that you guys burnt down and any other destruction from the Battle of Helgasker.
Yeah, so that's the short-term stuff, is like building another dock, maybe even two. Just, we don't even need a huge dock, but like just like something that goes out a little bit so you can moor your ship to it. And like an ale house and like a couple of other places down there that we can like sell goods at.
Yeah, if this is your will, people will like set to it, and Carls, who are responsible for certain thralls from your crew, will get them to that end, felling wood and building up the docks again and making houses, or billeting the houses of those who are slain.
Yeah. Are all of the warriors who fought with Sigthric dead?
No, I mentioned that earlier, I think, in the chat, how many had survived and
25
surrendered.
Fearedmen?
Yep.
But there's
So
no
that's all.
like Huskarls or warriors.
No, I guess technically some of them would have as well. That would be like less amount because they were on the initial charge out across the causeway.
Yeah, okay.
So I'd say maybe like 10 Huskarls.
Because I would offer those Huskarls basically join or be a thrall sort of situation.
Mm. In that case, the 25 Fearedmen would join rather than become thralls, and 5 of the Huskarls would join rather than become thralls.
Okay.
So you can add that into alongside onto your like crew or like roster, I guess, in addition to the Asblothers who I mentioned in the chat as well.
I'll make sure that those who join me are like treated generously, and I want that to be seen. So like the Huskarls and even the Fearedmen who join me are like will gain some wealth and thralls and things like that. And the Huskarls who didn't join me are going to be like put in charge of like the worst work. I want to make it clear that like if you join me, it's good. If you don't, it's bad.
Yeah, those men will go to their fate knowing that it would have been worse off for them, but don't want to become Huskarls to Isclofin, so they end up shoveling pig shit.
Yeah, so that's Ingvar's input for now, anyway. And yeah, ideally we would have Kjartan go up north and see what those situations are and like what the routes are and things like that into into our lands from the north.
Yeah, and what else? What would the rest of you guys like to do?
I will kind of fall in with oh god, I just forgot both their names. The two people that we had just been speaking to, me and Ingvar, to try to like learn up on some of the goings on of the town alongside them, and then Helgasker. Um, basically try to get a best as understanding of the goings on here as it can, and if there's any downtime in between doing that, we'll go down to the smithy to kind of help them shape up as well. Those are going to be my two main goals.
Yeah, the Smith survived the Battle of Helgasker and has a forge there which was not damaged because there was no pillaging allowed other than the initial burnings for that attack. So the forge is in working order, and there's someone there, like probably I'd say repairing weapons and armor for your companions and self and others in that force. So it's hot when you get there. As for Yadwith and Wilglist, they'll like answer any kind of questions that you want to know. Wilglist because he wants to retain a position inside the household and not live like a thrall where the manual labor will kill him. And Yadwith not wanting any harm to come to her son, who's essentially hostage before her to your own lord. And so they'll tell you of the 300 to 400 souls of Helgasker who now reduced to some 264 or so, and of the destitution of the thanedoms of this coast from Goldenfleece's war against the Flamesower in the north, and how her son fights there, and the way she speaks tells you she's steeled herself for the possible eventuation that he's died there, where so many others have fallen to this king in all but name of the Northerners called Uthil. She'll tell you of the mute Thegn, the incapable Thegn of Manavik, and his very capable wife and two daughters who rule there in his stead, given his incapacity. Of the width and breadth of the land of Helgasker, and that its borders pretty much bracketed by those bridges that you can see on your map, and safeguarded by the watchtowers that Ingvar has set thralls to having be repaired. Before the coming of Blackhand, the satellite village of Bor, far to the west of here, across the bridge, was the satellite village that fed or that paid tribute to Helgasker. Now it's ruins. And north of here is the vast Bard's Golga, which is a wood which girts a Bard's Way, which is a big river which cuts through half of Goldenfleece's land and then out to the sea. And yeah, she just give you this kind of information and any others that you would ask for over these hours before you go to the forge.
Yeah, even some of the smaller things specifically for here, like how much tax and tithe the people here were paying under the previous Thegn, and the kind of quality of life that they were afforded before, and kind of put that against what Ingvar is trying to give. He wants to make sure that, well, obviously, Eskolthan rule is going to be different than Asbloth, that we don't push too far, because that's how you get revolts.
Yeah, he would say that largely the law speaker determined that in conjunction with the Thegn, though it was roughly the following, that Carls or anything lower would pay up half of everything to their overlord, who would pay a tithe of 1/10, 1/10, to the Thegn. So Huskarls and Carls of note pay 1/10 of everything they have up to the Thegn, and everyone below them pays 50% essentially of what they get or have or produce to that one. So it kind of goes up in these channels by those amounts. All based on a share type system, same as on the Siohester. There are 42 of you, but it's a share of 5 for Ingvar, a share of 2 for each of you, and a share of 1 for everyone else. And so it goes up by their trade or what their families associated with. So it's not the farmstead would be paying hacksilver, they'd be paying it in pounds of food and produce and such, and the fishers wouldn't be paying in coin. It would be in their catches and such.
Yeah, in goods of what they produce.
Yeah, there is still currency, obviously, because it's coastal, but still, I think a large proportion of the taxation would be goods and service rather than hard cash.
Yeah, goods that could either be used by the upper houses or sold off for profit to traders and things like that. Yeah, Rake would take all that in, and he would make sure to tell that to Ingvar, so that way whatever he sets as his own price, he can at least be aware that that's what these people are used to paying, and that while he's of course in charge and is free to charge whatever he wants, that if he wants these people to serve him with the utmost loyalty, that perhaps not pushing too much further than what they're used to would probably be best, and would give him all of that information.
Wilglist would ask you, are you to become the Gothi of Helgasker? Are you the Jarl's law, the Thane's law speaker?
I am a man of the gods and the runes, though not in the way that your previous Gothi was. I will likely be able to stand in, fulfill the services as needed, until a more proper, permanent solution can be found.
Is there anything else I can do of service to you, Lord?
Not at the moment, but if there's any more information that comes to mind that you think I would find valuable, please. As much as it may not seem like it, sometimes we do want this place to be great, even under our rule. We're not here to tyrannize. The people
Very good.
here, wealth and happiness is ours.
I will set to those tasks you mentioned and have those lists drawn up, and will be within call to heed you should you need, and he'll like make his way out. What did Egret want to do? Was she going to stay in town or go with Kjartan, or is she just following Ingvar?
Egret would do her best to try and get a sense of the newly joined men and their loyalty. If it is tenuous or false.
Yeah, moving amongst them, and all of them giving you due respect, knowing you as Ingvar's sister, you can move amongst them like uncontested and like speak with them and those who have like interacted with them. And they seemed like a hardy, ruthless lot under Sigurd, but given that Ingvar has decided that all of like you Karls and Huskarls will be given thralls and land to serve you, essentially, that you serve up to him. That's what these men were promised under Sigurd. So the 15 or so under that Asblo, the Coldbind Sigdorsen, they seem like well content. They're not ruling their fate, although they rule like Sigurm's death. Like they have what they were promised, and they weren't forced into service with Skolson. So seem happy enough, or at least for like the afternoon or day that you spend in their ranks. Each one would like go to his billeted place.
Did they think of this as a better lot than the group that went with Skull?
Yeah, they're Asbloth, the men who wanted to join Sigorm so that they could become Karls in this rich land. And they prefer that to raiding as Isklofen Reavers. So the Isklofen ranks, who were amongst Sigorm's men, who made up his numbers, who Ingvar, as part of his deal, gave over to Skull. The Asbloth ones think that they got a raw end, because that's not what they would have preferred. So those two things in mind, the men seem pretty happy enough. You sense no discontent or anything that would give you worry as far as your brother's rule goes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and then might chat briefly with the Jarl's widow, and see if she's content, and see if I can suss out any more information about her oldest son.
Yeah, Yadewith would welcome you in after a little tour, nods and opens the door to a newly requisitioned house, much smaller than the previous one. There's like a serving maid in there with her, and she composes herself to come up and greet you, knowing you, as others do, as Ingvar's sister. What is it I can do for you? And she like says the words weirdly, my lady, as if wondering if that's the right title to say.
Ingrid gives a strange look. No. I need no title. Tell me, are you content?
Oh, yes, of course, she lies.
Tell me of your son Bragi.
Oh, he's bold and brash and curious, like his father, and like his older brother. And he will not fail your brother, and he will do his duty now, and play as this hand that fate has dealt us.
Is he much like his brother then?
In some ways, yes. Though Sigtrigger is fearless and wrathful.
When was your son due to return?
The tears spill before the words do. 2 months back, it was called to the bard's mouth in defiance of the flamesower. Your Jarl. She corrects herself, wondering if she'll be punished at like the common insult, like the common name which is used as an insult here.
Jarl is flamesower indeed.
Sigtrigger styles himself as the one who could kill the famous Reaver Lord.
I see the arrogance of youth extends even to your people.
All the Bragi sons are bold and brash, and have been ever since their forebear or so their tales go.
Would have been better. Well, caution and acquiescence is sometimes better.
As you say, lady.
Your son will not come to harm, not by Ingvar's hand.
That's a lie, lady. All our sons will come to harm.
Choose your words carefully.
She nods mutely.
I will not suffer an insult from you again.
As she looks down, shying away.
Egret will get up and leave.
So, Kjartan, you've been out ranging for the last half a week, maybe more, with a couple of other men from the Sio Hester. Living it rough, you've bathed in streams, wiped yourself with what leaves you can find, lived off game from snares, and drunk from rock pools as you've covered some portions of your captain or Thane's domain. After setting your household and a few thralls to right, you set off with Solsi, Knut the Wagerer, and a couple of others. And you've made your way up now past the western watchtower and escorted there the handful of thralls who are set to felling nearby trees and reinforcing the thing as per your Thane's instruction, while you note down landmarks upon like a vellum ledger, eyeing the horizon with the others while they talk amongst themselves. When Knut the Wagerer gives out a call, points, the forest has let free some folk. 'Tis a woman, I'd wager. And Solsi gives a grin. Aye, I think you're right, Knut. And he'll push up from where he was leaning under the shade of a nearby ash tree. And while you can hear like the hammering and sawing of thralls off behind you, Kjartan, at the watchtower, and the stream that cuts through underneath the stone bridge beyond to the west, the sun at your back, you can see beyond this woman carrying what seems like a child in her arms, move out of the woods at a decent pace. And as she grows close, it's almost as if like you come into clarity or vision for her. And she kind of stops and freezes like a doe in the hunt. And then like it goes to turn, looking back adopts like quite a worried pose. And as a few of the men like stalk forward towards her, like whistling or like calling out, she'll give up hope of running away and crouch down, trembling. Knut and Solsi and the others look to you, who've been placed in charge of this reconnaissance group by the Black Hand.
Kjartan looks at Knut, says, "Well, go get her. Bring her here." And he would like stand. He was leaning back himself, sitting in the shade.
Yeah, he'll return, bring the woman up to you. Certainly, a child clutched within her arms now. A baby, really, certainly under a year. A couple of spans to it, maybe. It squalls, swaddled at her breast, and she looks about, her lips trembling, tears filling her eyes. "You are Northerners. Please don't kill me."
I think Kjartan would give an easy smile to her and say, we won't hurt you. He's here. Sit. Get the woman some water."
One of the men will like go over to the stream and fill a bladder of water, and then return sometime after for her. She'll take it fearfully and drink.
He doesn't say anything. He wants her to sit in the discomfort while they're waiting. They're all just standing there. He'd probably look at a couple of the other men and say, "You have other things to do." And he would thumb them away. And once she takes a drink of the water, "Good mother, what brings you out here by yourself with a babe? Where are you coming from?"
"I am Valgerd, Lifal's daughter. My husband, he died from a cut that festered and went black. We lived on the outskirts of Helgasker. My birth was hard, and I had it alone. The gods have cursed me with a crippled thing. I was taking it to the Tangol."
"Do you see the baby?"
She'll reveal it slowly to you, fearful she's heard what the Isclofin do to crippled babes. You can see what otherwise is like a fairly like robust young male child, but for this withered chicken leg appendage out one side of it, otherwise fine form.
"Cursed by the gods he is. We do him a favor. Throw him into the woods."
"Oh, we cannot. I would not risk the curse. Even the brigands of the hard road, Northmen. I'd rather face them, Lord, than a curse."
"I'll do it for you." And he reaches for the
"No,"
child.
she pulls it away. "No, it's for the Tangol. That's the old law of this land," and she says, raising like a surprising amount of defiance considering her situation.
Does Kjartan know what she's talking about, the Tengol?
Nope.
Yeah. But she says it in a way, he's kind of superstitious. Oh, he's not kind of. He is superstitious, if you remember from the witch's lair. He's like, he gets that kind of that raised eyebrow look both when she pulls the child away. "What do you mean? That is a word I do not know."
"The Tangol. It's a servant of the old ways. A parent to the cripples, bastards of this realm. It's where we take them. It was established in the old ways." She looks down and makes like that symbol with her fingers to ward off the evil eye and the alpha. "All the women have. My aunts and grandmothers, all the way back, will make the journey. Past Bua west to the Dead Stones. There dwells the Tangol. We give her our broken babes."
"So you feed your son to some," and the word kind of twists around his tongue. "Preacher?"
"Maybe part preacher or prophesizer. Parent.
'Tis a
They say
woman.
the Tangol is a withered old woman. Aye."
I think Kjartan would reach and grab the Odin necklace that hangs around his neck when she says that as a way, and then kind of maybe blushes a bit when he realizes you You make this journey yourself.
My husband should have come with me, though his leg greened and blackened, and he went mad before he died with the fever.
And Kjartan sits down next to her now.
I sent my nephew to Helgasker for aid, but he never returned.
What does he look like?
Yeah, she gives you a description of a young man who may or may not have been butchered brutally in the Battle of Helgasker.
There's probably a moment when there's this flash of this face just before Kjartan puts an axe into it. That sort may have fit that description. He shakes his head. He says, and what happens if you don't bring the child there? How would the old woman know?
They say the other folk come, will sour the milk, and spread curses through the family, drive the kith wild in its stalls.
I think his stomach
She says
turns.
this like she's fearful to say this, but she's obviously like she's almost like she's more fearful of this than she is of you. And she says, "Please, Lord, have me, but let me deliver my child to the Thegn."
I think that's what makes Kjartan so nervous. All these reavers around her, and she's more afraid of this old woman than them, and that's really got him like on edge. Seems dark magic that you talk about, woman. Doesn't sit well with me. It goes against the teachings of the gods.
She looks desperately like to the west across the bridge where you can see Salsi pissing into the water, or Knut the Wager like yelling at a bunch of the thralls and telling them that they're not erecting the tower correctly. And then back to you, please, she pleads.
He was sitting next to her. He stands up, looks down at her. No compassion at all in his face. He goes, "No, I can't let you do this. Doesn't seem right." He'd whistle. And I guess I don't know if we need to necessarily go through the scene that's going to play out here. But the child and the woman are not going to make it to the Thegn.
Oh, she'll try to rise and like struggle away, though will be overcome. And if you like mean to stop her, like, do you mean murder?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a couple. Oh, you go.
But how old is she?
Young 20s, early 20s.
Yeah. He would probably just give her a strong backhand just to kind of daze her, pull the child from her. And then he'd shove her towards the other men for them to do what they will with her. But as they decide what they're going to do, he would give that signal, drawing his thumb across his throat that says, "When you're done, take care of her." And oh my gosh, I don't believe I'm going to do this in another Iskoloff game. But Kjartan's going to he's doing this woman a favor and makes an end to this poor kid.
Yeah, and their corpses are flung into the river. After you've made your reconnaissance, you leave the thrall team to head north into the Bard Skoga to complete your circumvention of Helgasker's lands. It's while in these dark woods with like a browning canopy above you, several days after the murder of that woman and her child, that you would hear like a panicked shriek in the woods coming from the north that sets the men up from their japery. And they just like throw their like prodding sticks back like down into the fire and quickly move to adopt their weapons. And off in the distance, like the galloping of horse or horses can be heard as well. Knut the Wagerer goes to say that it's bad news. He'll wager. but is cut short as a figure, quickly followed by another, soon burst from the foliage beyond, rushing. A man with like an oaken shield clanking at his back and an empty scabbard slapping at his thigh, tenuously holding fingertips of a woman behind him as a skirt hoiked in one hand and gripping on to this running man in front of her with the other. And they both look over their shoulders intermittently and like crash through like a small sapling onto the outskirts of your camp and kind of like stop, like freezing at the spot before going to like jackknife and jerk off in another direction.
This is still in Kjartan's camp?
Yep, that's right. While you're in the Bardskoga, which is the woods north of Helgasker.
We're gonna try to stop them, and also look behind them to see what chases them. Maybe even yell out, "Hey!"
The sound of horses grows louder, and so the man attempts to pull the woman in another direction and rushes off into the undergrowth. Salsy the rower and Knut the wager will like run from the small campfire, rushing to like head them off. It's about this time that two figures, and then joined by a third, brush through the undergrowth as well. All three of them mounted on like squat, short, hairy-maned horses common to northerners and have a distinctly northern look to them, like you yourself. One wears a nasal helm with like eye rings that cover his face, but he puts his fingers through it to like pull it back to reveal a pale blue-eyed man of mid-20s or so, a straw blonde beard roping down before him over the ringmail that sports over his chest, and a throwing spear in his hand. No shield to him, though one of the other men with him bear it. "Ah, my thanks, friend," he says, marking you as an Isklof and speaking in Nordska and with it thick. "These quarry are ours," and he'll gesture for one of his men on horseback to like go over towards them as they stand surrounded. The woman like calls out to the man with her like to do something, but weaponless. He can only shake in fear as Salsy looms closer. Knut the wagerer looks to you, Kjartan, as if you will allow this man to come and take these people.
I think Kjartan is standing there. He's trying to look at ease, maybe thumbs in his belt, but it's very close to the loop where he has a hatchet. He says, "Hell, it's good to see brothers. Did not know. Does he recognize any of these men? Like, do they have any markings that might mark them who they reeve with?"
Yeah, give me a lore-wise check.
Perfect. I will. 13. I'm not sure what my lore-wise is. 13.
You don't recognize any of these men, nor the colors on the shield of one of them. Though for a 13, even though it's unlucky, you at least mark them as Isklofen warriors, and that if they are like mounted here, could perhaps belong to outriders of Uthil's force north of here, that would put them south, this side of Bard's Mouth River.
Who? He goes, do not want, and it's late in the evening or early in the evening.
Late in the afternoon. That's why they set a fire in camp. Yep, it's probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Okay. Far be it from me to stop you from your quarry, but I'm curious. Who are they? Where are they from?
This one, no doubt, fled from the Drover's Wash when our forces smashed through them some days back. We've been hunting him and his kind, and will sell them for good profit. That woman, by a look, I'd say, one of the whores from their camp. Our camp, he smiles wolfishly, and the other two men respond with that. I am Thorgils, son of Thrain. This is Ospak, and that ugly one, he says about the fairer one, is Aldgizel. Aldgizel.
Hmm. He nods as they introduce themselves. I'm Kjartan. Those ugly dogs there, they're not worthy of names, but we are Ingvar's men. And he's saying that to see if they recognize the name. The Black Hand.
Ah, well enough. What you doing up here in these woods so far away from water?
So God's a phase with us. We've taken a town to the south of here. Helgasker. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Loki fucks some men. Odin praises other. You're lucky enough. We're all fighting and drowning up there. Here you are plowing Sudska.
Kjartan cannot help but laugh at that. He says, "Here, bind them. Have a drink."
He'll dismount. Would not refuse, and his men will go with him. And Knut the Wager and Solsi will go up and catch this man and woman and bind them with some rope to a nearby tree, and make space around the small fire for these three men.
Yeah. I think as they're doing that, Kjartan would look at them and say, "Make sure to gag them too. I don't want to hear their squabbling or squalling."
I've had enough of Sudska screaming. You should have been there. The Drover's Wash, 3 days back. The water was red. It probably still is. The Flame Sower and the other Jarls sent us out to catch those who might fled. Some hundreds or so they think, oh, thank you, and you'll take the cup. Some hundreds they think who fled down into the Bardswood. Could be a hefty problem for your boy, eh?
It's good fortune that we met then. My lord would want to know this.
So
drink up. That's good Helgasker mead.
I thought it tasted stolen. He smiles and take another slug of it, and will say, "So these are your lord's lands."
I think Kjartan would shrug. He really doesn't care too much about that. They are.
He's asking that cautiously. Well, then I appreciate you letting us take our property back, even though we've wandered in here. As you can imagine, we didn't know either. And he looks between the other men who just like brutal medieval bikies, really, but they just kind of nod earnestly, yeah, and we truly just thought this was wild forest. And the thought strikes you, I guess that means that technically these are Ingvar's property?
Yeah. Yeah, he knows that. Kjartan doesn't care, though. What are these? What is another man and woman? And I have to not read the chat while I'm talking. And he says, so you say maybe 100?
Or more. They started to flee long before we'd surrounded them. Oh, the killing. It was hard work. Or I'm a liar. And you'll hand the cup back over to Knut the Wagerer.
How many fighting men do you think?
They say there are some few hundreds arrayed against us, but Flame Sower, wily as a hungry wolf, he sent ships up the river. Men disembarked and came round behind old Goldenfleece. Shame we didn't get him, but we'll catch him soon enough. Our lord, he's offered a haul to the one who catches the Goldenfleece.
That definitely gets his attention. Huh. Kind of sucks his teeth.
Some pilfered haul and some soft Sudskin woman to plough with it. There's many of those on the offing, as you well know.
Kjartan looks, he says, fat, you think? Fat woman? Fat lands?
He's the only enemy so far of the Flame Sower still standing, offering him over. Well, a kind smile from the Flame Sower could be worth as much as a hold, nay?
He nods his head. He looks at the other men. Well, he stands up.
What of the other coastal places? You say your boy's taken Helgasker. What of Manavik? What of Holmsgrim?
Yeah. Still in the hands of the South.
You sea wolves. While we bleed and cut southerners to pieces, what are you doing? Standing on deck fumbling with your cocks. But he gives a smile and like slaps you pretty hard on the shoulder. It's like someone slamming the fridge in your hand.
Nice. Better you're on your way. I'm much kinder than my lord, and certain that he would take issue if he knew that you came here and took what he would probably see as his property.
He'll take out some hack silver and flick it over to you then. I appreciate your tight lips on the matter then, friend.
Kjartan would scoop up the hack silver. Good day.
Perhaps we'll see you again, young Kjartan. The Flame Soul will surely push down south now into the Goldenfleece's heartland, and then it will be all on for young and old with us wolves to core a piece of land for ourselves. Perhaps the Flame Soul would even grace your own lord.
Maybe. And I think he kind of narrows his eyes a bit when he says that, measuring the man what his intent might be.
Thanks for the ale.
Thanks for the information.
And you. And Ozpak and the other will like nod as well, thanking you for the ale, and go back to their squat ponies, mount up, and ride off north with the man and woman rope-bound dragging behind them now.
As they start to ride off, I think Kjartan would turn to the others and say, "What a couple of ass-licking whores." And he would pick one of the men.
Half of that was lies or more, I'd wager, says Knut the Wagerer.
Yes, but not the part about Goldenfleece. We must make sure Ingvar knows. And I think he would pick a man. Shit. Would he pick a man or would he go himself? I don't know if I trust these guys. And I don't know how to write, so I can't write him a message and send him something. And how far are we from Helgasker?
Oh, no more than half a day's like steady march.
I think Kjartan would want to bring this message himself. He'd want to talk about Goldenfleece, and he'd want to talk about the Reavers to the north, pushing down. I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, and the victory at Drover's Wash.
Yep. Yeah, and potential threat that men might pose, but also the potential benefit if we could find Goldenfleece, bring him to heel.
So with that in mind, you break camp the next morning and set off south, heading ever away from the Bard Skolga and heading back to Helgasker. And I think that's probably a great time for us to have a bio smoko drinko break.
Sounds good.
So just see we're about halfway through. So
Okay.
we'll go have a D6-minute break and then come back.
Cool. Perfect. I'll be back in a few.
Back and I just put on the wrong dang headphones. Like, wow, it's really quiet.
They're not plugged in.
No, I'm the other one sitting on my bed.
She's like, why aren't these guys answering me?
Yeah.
Yes, the
It's been a
two
long
thralls.
week and it's only Tuesday, so
The two thralls aren't important, but what is important is that we like make a deal with these people rather than just like freely let them wander in our lands. That's like not acceptable, you know. So the ideal situation, I think, probably would have been to be like, okay, you could do that here, but you have to go and speak with Ingvar, you know, because you're in his lands and you're basically stealing from him. Because once they're in my lands, they're mine.
Yeah.
You know.
Pay a tithe.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm back.
Yeah,
I'll
sorry.
tap back.
Yeah, I think we're all back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a good place to start it up again is that you guys, for 7 or 8 days, have been at your toil, whatever that may be, in Helgasker, when the scouting party that you sent out under Kjartan would return to Helgasker. I'll let you take it up, Lionel.
Yeah, Kjartan would see a man. Where's the Jarl?
Beyond, he was seeing to the ditches with a thrall party. It can't be far from the long haul, Lord.
Yeah, he
It
starts
says one of the
walking.
thralls looking up.
Yeah, he just starts walking away before he even finishes all that.
Going past, you can see construction's begun on the second dock and the southeast farmstead. There's a steady stream of thralls carrying lumber from the woods and set to work on it. And there's kind of a busyness here, and like the corpses have been cleaned away and ditches filled in, and it's like a hive of activity and noise as you make your way up the mound towards where you can eventually spot out Ingvar, Ygritte, and flanked by Raken and Thrimnir.
I think there would be that moment, like any man serving someone like Ingvar would do is, he'd have that moment of doubt. So he kind of pauses for a second, kind of looks over his shoulder where the other men that were with him are probably several paces back. And then he steels himself and walks up the bank to Ingvar. And so he would give him, so just really quickly, I think one of the things he would do is just give that rudimentary report of what lies to the north. And then he say and then he would get into the bit with the interaction with the 3 men from the north. He would, and let me see, how would he say that? He'd probably just say it very matter-of-factly. We captured a man and a woman. They were chased by 3 reavers. And he would, I didn't write the name down, unfortunately. He would name them, not that that's important, but he would talk about, yes, Thorgrill Heronsson, an outrider for Uthu's force. He would talk about the fighting to the north, and how 100 or more have fled south into the woods north of us.
Into my woods?
Aye. The most interesting part, though, Lord, Goldenfleece is with them, and Uther is promised a kingly gift to anyone that could bring him to heal. And he would smile at that, then clear his throat, look down at his feet.
And these men, you just let them wander around my woods gathering thralls?
No, I sent them on their way.
And they left my land?
They did.
All right. Well, we need to get going immediately. We have to find Goldenfleece.
Yeah, he nods.
And he would begin barking orders for horses, arms, armor, and stuff to be prepared, and horns as well. We need to have horns so we can blow if we find anybody.
That reminds me, I should have said over those couple of days, it would have been brought to you guys, and probably, or maybe even to Rake, that scaled who you flung into the Impaler's pit, his horn, he sported a fine horn, which you could recover for the purposes of like using to communicate with your forces. That was like one of the fine loot items. I'm not sure if you have to be proficient in that or not, but I think it'd be fair enough to say that you guys are. But you could have others created too, so that you could like communicate between separate forces.
Like back and certainly forth. We would need that. Like horns that we can like blow once for they are here or whatever. I also think it's good that we can just like do that if there's anyone else in those woods who are like friendly or like reavers or whatever, that they will hear and maybe come and investigate. So I would gather up certainly all of us, but then also as many men as we can spare to, I guess we bring 8 then if we have 8 horses to head up north as quickly as possible. I think we'd also want to like send men marching or walking. We want to send as many people up to the woods and comb them as best we can.
Well, you guys have your forces. Sorry, you go.
Egret would suggest finding anyone of the villagers turned thralls who might know the woods, might know hiding places, hunting cabins, somewhere that they might hole up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So anyone who used to be a hunter or a woodsman or a forester or anything like that, gather them and bring them as well. So basically like a force of 8 on horses will go immediately and begin combing the place, and we would send a smaller or a bigger force of those who can walk to follow and comb the woods.
Yeah, and who would go and who would command them? And I'm assuming you would send them north into the Bardskogr, but like who would coordinate it on the ground?
Yeah, I'll go. Like all of us will go. Well, maybe we need one person here to look after the place. Maybe that should be me. No, I need to be there in case we have to talk to Goldenfleece.
Yeah, and you need to be there in case we want to take him straight to Uthal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so no one else can ruin any more and like tell lies. Yeah, so I'll go. I will leave.
Oh, wait, are we honest killers and bandits now? I'm confused.
I mean, surprisingly, honesty is like a really big thing. Despite like the murder and the reaving, there's still like, a lot of that. So I'll go. I'll bring all of these, and I will leave. I need to leave someone I can trust in charge. Maybe one
Harding.
of them. Yeah, I think Harding is probably the best person to leave in charge. Yep.
Cool. You have a better idea of your forces than me from the Google Doc, so you can kind of note who's staying to guard and who you're going to take with you in your large force, and who the 8 will be. Well, who the 7 essentially, because one of them will be the most knowledgeable of the thralls of the woods to the north.
Yeah. So I'll take all of us, and I will take Yura, because he's one of our best. I'll take Dagfinn the dancer, and a few others that are like familiar, like some of the older boys.
And so you leave the place in Harding's steady hands and collect a force for yourself. How many are we talking here? 20, 30?
Yeah, we'll take 8 on the horses, and then we'll send 20 north.
And given the local, there you
go. We need to leave enough people in the village to make sure the thralls don't rise up, and that if somebody arrives, that there's enough of a force here that they go, oh yeah, this is someone runs this place.
Yep. So with this knowledge, and with the local knowledge of one of the thralls, to give you places of note within the Bardswood, you can deduce a few places that could be potential haunts for a retreating force from the Drover's Wash to the north. And so begin a sweep of them. Less than a week after you've pushed out northeast from Helgasker into the woods, scouts would return on horseback swiftly this time, which would note positive progress just by their pace alone as they approach you to forewarn. that there has been quite a large camp spotted beyond in the Weald, which is what the folk simply call the center of these woods near here. In the midst of some old stones clung heavy with moss, it looks like an old homestead or the like that nature has reclaimed much of, and they've spied like some campfires there, some tether lines, scores of men, certainly more than what men you've brought with you, as they look around your own cold camp behind you.
Okay.
Not more than half a day's like ride from here, so like a day's swift march.
We need to get an exact number, or even a guesstimation scores, as in 40, or as in like, yeah, okay. Okay, I think that's probably doable with the 28 that we have, if we're crafty about it.
Yeah, it looks like what once was like a irregular circular glade around like a large stone homestead that the cleared woods now have regrown with like slightly shorter and thinner trees close by to the rocky homestead that's now grassy, mossy overgrown. And in amidst that, some 40 men, give or take, linger. They notice many of them like wounded or faring with illness. And they were military men, and certainly not Esclophen, given their sigilry on their shields and the make of their helms, and the commonality of their armor.
Yeah. What I'd like to do then is to have most of my force try and move like silently and like in a wide circle around them, so that they're on the opposite side from where I'm going to come in. I'm going to come in with a peace branch and try and speak to these people. But if things go sour, I want like most of my force to be able to burst out from the direction that I'm not in, like opposite me, basically, so we get them from two sides.
Okay. And if you're going with Peace Branch, are you taking retinue or escort?
Yeah. I'll take 10 with me. So all of us except for Anthrimnir, who will be in charge of the other half of the force, or the main half of the force.
Okay.
And then the 4 of us, and then like 6 others, so there's 10 of us.
And mounted or on foot will you approach?
Actually, I'll do 9 because it's a holy number.
Nice.
And yeah, mounted. We don't have 9 horses though, I don't think.
Only 8, unfortunately, unless you brought some with you in your loot. I'm not sure.
I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
9 is a nice number. Let me have a look here. I feel like you guys did get a horse or 2 horses. Oh, yeah, there was 1 horse, but you killed that in a blot.
That's right.
A ritual, yeah. Okay, it doesn't look like it, so yeah. Maybe 1 dismounted holding the peace branch and 8 mounted approach.
Yeah, yep, that's the way to do it.
And so is your intent to, obviously, to have that force visible, but the greater one you spoke of to be led by Anthrimnir and such, like, do you want them to be hidden from this camp?
Yes, hidden. Yep. And basically, when they hear a horn blow, they're to like charge forth and butcher.
Okay. I'm going to say that the modifier for a group of that size and armed how I imagine they would be 1 for their stealth. I'm going to set them a DC of 13 for the passive perception of this camp's guards. And I got a 12, no shit. So plus 1 equals 13 because you're the aggressor in this sense. You don't hear any war horns or clarion calls or people crying out in alarm, as you hear probably every painful jingle of armor or breath or cough of a man about you as you begin to like irregularly encircle or envelop this camp from like a long charging distance. And those infantry armed to the teeth under Anthrimnir wait in the autumnal foliage of these ancient woods, while you mount up with others forementioned, and Knut the Wagerer will cut a birch branch from a nearby tree and walk foremost amongst the riders, pretty much into the midst of their camp, which from back here now, Anthrimnir, you can hear a horn blow go up, echoed by another one, the sound of men rushing about and calling, and you see the camp come alive before you as men will go to like rush for arms and or pull helmets on or snuff out fires. But a man like roughly like calls them down from their clamor and shushes them to be quiet and points, marking the birch branch, and like nods toward your group even though he's helmeted, so you cannot see his visage. He'll turn to the men around him, and after a moment, 8 will fall in alongside him, and they will walk forward. It's probably now that your horses are winnicking to theirs that you note that they've got a few tethered here and there within their camp, though they do not come mounted, so which would tell you they're not at the capacity to meet your own retinue in that respect. They truly are beleaguered, though many wear chain from throat to ankle. And as this man comes forward, you realize he must be the Jarl of this place, the one they call Goldenfleece. His great arm rings about his chained shirt, and his cape that flows looks like at first of golden weave, though as it comes closer, it looks like deer hide. Not deer hide, sorry, deer fur, like a perfect deer fur, preserved somehow, and almost like with a glow to it, despite the fact that most of the sun is obscured by the canopy overhead. Rake, you would identify it upon sight as the fleece or hide of an Eichthyrnia. And he will step forward, fingering his helm to like draw it off to reveal the face of like a man like in his mid-30s or more, but with 10 years in the last 3 months poured on top of him. He bears a wound you can tell by the wince in his face and the gait of his movement, though it's covered from your visage by chain. And he'll walk up, seeing you. Have you come for more slaughter, you men who will not heed sets? I told the last riders, it will not be peace.
I come for peace, hence the branch. You're in my lands.
These are Bragison's lands, my own bondsman.
He is dead.
He levels his eyes and goes to hurl lie, but it's so obviously not.
Helgasker is taken and it is mine. His son and wife, my captive, the people there are mine. The whole place belongs to me now.
One of the armed men next to him gives him like a knowing look, maybe similar to one like your own men might have given you once, like, should we rush this man and slaughter them all now? But the Jarl shakes his head and tosses aside the idea, knowing from the way you've come that there must be others armed about, even if he or his scouts cannot notice them.
You're in my lands, Jarl. I've heard that you've had a rough go of it of late. There was quite a slaughter, that you faced the Flamesower. There's no man in all Iskloft who can beat the Flamesower. Your men are beleaguered and injured and sickly. They don't all have to die.
They're loyal and will stand with me to the end.
I don't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it for a moment. And if you want to go to Valhall now, as opposed to years from now, that's your choice. But I was thinking we could maybe come to some sort of peaceful arrangement.
And he waits for the lies, and his men rankle about him, uneasy at your approach and that your men are mounted. They're all, you can tell, you who are in assembly with the Thegn here, that these men are probably all wondering how many other mounted people do they have here, who's in the woods, and they're looking around almost with that kind of look of paranoia.
You, Jarl, are wanted, and you cannot be allowed to go peacefully. You know that. This is the way of war. As long as you breathe, you're a banner around which men can rally, and that cannot be allowed to happen. But your men don't need to die. Their women don't have to be widows. Their children orphans. Doesn't have to be the case. I promise now, upon my oath to Odin, that if you come peaceably, your men come peaceably, no harm will come to them. Once they are processed in Helgasker, those who can pay appropriate cost will be let go free.
I think not, he says, turning from his men and back to you, that we would not go as thralls to you, Reaver, and that you could not promise us safety, for if your own Jarl asked us to be given up as a gift to him. How could you, by your own words, deny that man most undeniable?
He has not said such. He said you must be captured, and that is what I intend to do. But your men don't have to die. They don't have to be thralls. All they have to do is pay me whatever hack silver they have and all the chains that they wear. And once we get to Helgasker, they can go cross one of the bridges towards Manavik. That is still
I've
in
no
the
silver, but plenty of steel for you, Reaver shit, says one of the men, though he's hissed down by his Jarl, who turns his head back to you from admonishing the man. And back to you once more.
If you want your wife to be a widow, that can be arranged. If you want your wife to be taken by some other Reaver from up north, that can be arranged. I don't want that for any of you. It's not your fault that this has happened to you. War is cruel. But I'm offering you now, Jarl, a chance to save your men, the hardships that could follow. I am many things. I'm a reaver and a killer and a murderer, but I'm not a liar. And that is well attested. An oath is an oath. And Odin takes those seriously up north.
A generous gift, Lord, he says with venom, but I must decline. If you would make us thralls, you will have to do so by battle.
I say again, it's not thraldom that I offer. It's freedom for your men. They can go freely. They will not be made thralls. Once we get to Helgasker, they can cross one of the bridges and go towards Manavik. That is still held by your southern companions. And they can be free there and make their way to wherever they want to go. But you cannot be free. And you know that. So whether it is that we capture you here in combat, or you come willingly and save your men's lives, that is your decision.
He'll reach to his side and draw his blade, and Knut will drop the birch, fumbling as he goes to pull his axe out of his belt loop. You hear the rasp of blades as men behind you on horses panic them by drawing their own.
I'll put my hand out. Stop.
He'll continue and just draw the blade free and then strike it down at the ground and cut a line in the turf of the woods, a jagged line across between you and he, and turn back to his men and say, any of you are free to go and march to Manavik by this man's word of safety.
Ingvar will look at the men, and then he'll shrug. You can keep your weapons if you go.
Yeah, these grim, mostly wounded Karls and Huskarls don't make a move to cross that line and just eye you and your companions with utmost contempt as villains.
Then let's try and spare as many lives as we can. If we have to fight, let's do it in the old way. I'll fight your best man. And the winner will decide what happens next.
And when I kill you, what's to say that your wolves will not turn of me, regardless of the metal of your word?
My oath.
One of his men goes to protest and try and stop his lord from this folly. They will shake the man off and take a step forward. Your oath to leave me here in my camp and harass me no more, even if your own lord commands it, if I defeat you in the home gang.
My oath that when this is complete, if I win, your men will throw down their weapons. If they're not, or if I don't win somehow, and Odin has abandoned me, though he has not thus far, then my men will leave you here. They will go back to Helgasker.
He looks disbelieving at those mounted behind you amongst your own party for signs of confirmation of that oath, not expecting to hear anything.
I'll pull a knife and cut my hand and like drip it onto the ground. One of my men here is a Galder, and he can make this oath sacred and unbreakable.
He looks like prune-faced, but like cannot refute it from the way that Rake appears.
Yeah, and Rake would even make a motion to step forward at his mention and kind of signal all his rune carved gear that would denote him exactly as such. As he says, if this is to be so, it will be sanctioned by the gods through myself and through the runes. Their eyes will be upon it, words binding. Lord's left to see it through or not.
You and I, stripped to the waist, sword and shield.
I accept.
Then let's make the square.
Rake would go about setting to do exactly that. Make sure that it's drawn up exactly as the gods demand.
Ingvar will strip to his waist, so he's just got breeches, sword and shield, and expect him to do the same.
Yeah, he will, though you note that he does not cast off his cloak.
I'll point to it.
You may wear a cloak if it please you, my lord.
That's a fine cloak that you wear. Shining, even.
My ancestor, the first Bragi. He slew I can't say that word, but you can.
And like Thernir.
An Eichthirnir, and bore its cloak and his line to me ever since as emblem of our house.
So it's sorcery. You would betray Odin's word with a magical cloak.
He looks to the Galder. This is like a godly thing, slain properly by like a hero and sported now in familial piety. With that kind of look, like someone has like, you know, this is okay, right?
If I had a cloak too that was magic and protected me from blades and made my eyes glow, then it would be fine, but I have no such thing. I have no magic upon me. The home gang is between men and just men and steel and sinew.
One of his men cautions him against this, so he'll like take the cloak off and hand it over to him. Those keen-eared amongst you would hear the Jarl admonishing his men, saying, when his followers see me slay him, they will rue us in combat, and fear will be that much easier to sow amongst their ranks. Have faith, Eagle. And he'll just take up his blade and shield. And blaze it with an Eichthirnia head.
Mine with a black hand, and I'll crack my neck and roll my shoulders.
Yeah, it's an easy enough thing to do, Rake, to find an acceptable place and to like place down the square. An uneasy semicircle on each side forms of the twin forces, your own dwarfed 8, to watch the Lord fight against the Jarl. And probably 2/3, 3/4 of the enemy force are gawking or like clamoring around to watch, though you would note, if you were watching, that a good proportion of them still at least guard their camp, wary of Iscolofin treachery. Yeah, so the horses are probably as nervous as most of you as they like step from side to side, winnicking for reassurance toward each other as the two men step, one for the last time inside the square circle of birch, sanctified and made holy now, and summoned the gods to witness by the Galdaman Rake, son of Snorri. And after he nods to you, Lord, and bangs the boss of his shield with his sword twice, combat begins, and by the initiative, you're the first to act.
Yeah, I'll leap forward with like a snarl, and then I'm going to swing Valrimnir, my Sayax that I made
What does that
myself.
mean?
It is Valiant Slayer.
Oh,
Yeah, I made it myself. It's pretty. It's a high quality Sayax. I'm going to slash forward with that and try and gut him. So I'm going to attack and then use the old one too. So I'll make 3 attacks. So the first is a 20, 15 plus 7, 22. Second is a 22 also, and the third
that hits.
is a 17 on the die, so even higher.
Oh yeah, that hits. I thought it was a 17 all up, but yeah, that's 3 hits.
Sick. Okay, so first one, 7, and then 9, and then 9 again.
25.
And then I will action surge, and I'll do that exact thing again. Okay, this is another 22, 15 on the die. Another 15 on the die. This is uncanny. And that's a 7 on the die, so that was only 14, which might actually hit him.
No, certainly not.
Okay, so then another 2 hits. Oh, nice. So that's going to be 12 for the first and 11 for the second.
So, 25. No, 23. Yeah, you unleash this brutal onslaught upon him, bursting links at his thigh, like scoring across the chest, across his chest, ripping splinters from the sides of his shield, truly shaking it. You do not fell the brave foeman before you. And he will unleash. He will like bring an overhead strike of his own to begin his own assault. Use his multi-attack. Sorry, no, he'll go with the shield rim, smashing it with the boss of it first, and then the overhead chop. So his shove will be a 20 to hit, which I'm sure will hit.
It will, yep.
So you'll take 6 bludgeoning, and you must make DC 15 strength save or be knocked prone.
Thankfully, I make the save, 17 on the die. And it's at 8?
Yes, that's right. Only 8 bludgeoning damage, and then 2 overhead strikes with the longsword for a miss, a certain miss, and a 19 on the die, which will be a certain hit, 26 to hit.
Yeah, I can't even parry it. Okay.
So it will be 8 slashing damage.
Okay. All right. So I'll take those.
And he will use his martial superiority once per turn to deal an extra 2d6 on a successful attack. So with that, the successful strike after the first rings off the rim of your shield, when he strikes in, he'll rip it like at an unholy angle and then pull it out, trying to gut you as he does. And it'll actually be on top of that an extra 8 necrotic damage. That's all he can do.
Okay.
Stay right there, locked adjacent to you in mortal combat.
So I'll begin another round. I'll like swing the shield, slash out with a headbutt, and see what I can do. That's a natural 20. That's a 13 on the die, plus 7 is 20. And then
for a 20, he'll use his reaction to parry to add a 2 to his AC to make that one a miss.
Okay, and the third then is a 11 on the die, plus 7, so 18.
Yeah, because of the reaction, that's going to miss.
Oh, for the turn?
Yeah, as a reaction,
Oh,
that's plus 2 is AC against 1. Oh, sorry, it's against 1 melee attack.
Yeah,
My bad.
okay.
So then it reduces back down again, which means an 18 does hit.
Okay, so 2 hits. And a
Yep,
crit.
one of
Okay.
which is a crit.
Oh, baby. Oh, and I have sword skill, which means that I add an extra dice when I get a crit.
Okay.
So I will do that. So the crit is 5 plus 3 plus 6 is 14.
That bloodies him.
And the second is, geez, I'm not going to be able to kill this guy. He's insane. Second is 9.
9 damage. Okay. And I need a D20, please.
17.
17 is a limp, so the crit hits him in the leg. His speed is reduced by 5 feet. He must make a DC 10 dex save after using a dash action or fall prone. So it's a brutal slash down his thigh, and there's like, oh, and his men groan in your own cheer as his blood spills out hot between the birch angles. And he will unleash again, though with slightly less strength this time. First, he's going to shove you with the boss of his shield again, trying to bring you prone so he can gut you. That will be a 19 on the die, so a certain hit. You need to make that DC 15 strength save again. You'll take 7 bludgeoning damage this time.
Yeah, make the save again.
Okay, so it's just with regular attack. Another 19 on the die, and then a crit.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm dead.
The 19 is going to be, and he'll use his 2d6 on that because he would have before he rolled the crit. So it's going to be 7 plus 3 is 10. And for the last one, 7. So 17 all up for the damage.
Okay, I'm still standing.
A d20 for the crit, please.
A 5.
5 is... Oh, grim. He slashes down and it scores down your bicep, ruining one of the tattoos there. You probably won't notice that till after the fight because all of this is a frenzy in a moment of microseconds. But it will give you weak arm from now on. Whenever you roll a natural 1 on an attack roll, you drop the weapon you are holding. So an old war wound, if you survive this down your arm, which will remind you of Jarl Goldenfleece. The rest of your days.
Okay.
And that's all he can do. He'll stay right there, not shying away from it. I think at first he thought this would be easily overcome, though after being badly bloodied and now so close, like that strike was like with a frenzied kind of animalistic brutality and scored you deep across the arm. So he's bleeding heavily, just as I imagine you are now, right? Like both of you are bloody messes.
I think I'm probably going to die. He's like not even close to dead, and I'm very close to dead. So I'm just trying to think of like, is it worth second winding? Because he'll just do that damage in one hit, and I won't get to make my bonus attack.
Isn't second wind? Oh, sorry, I was going to say, yeah, it's a bonus action, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, but I need it to make my... Okay, I'm going to just swing with everything I've got and hope that I can take him down. That's how Ingvar would want to go anyway. Okay, it's a 15 on the die for a 27 all up. It's 15.
Certainly.
That's a 14 on the die for a 26.
It hits.
Fucking God, it's another crit. Unbelievable. Oh my God.
Maybe Odin actually does love you.
Fuck, man, I'm like so close to losing my mind.
Maybe all the like rune tattoos and pigeon
God.
Sacrificing you've been doing over the last years.
Maybe, man. Fuck.
Divine currency that you're
Holy
spending
shit.
now.
I'm so afraid. Okay, so the first one is going to be 7 damage.
Okay.
The second one is going to be 10 damage.
Okay.
And then the crit is going to be... Oh, that's nice. 9 and 3 is 12 plus 6 is 18 damage.
Describe the slaying
Oh
of
my
gold.
God, you're shitting me. I just need to cackle in joy because I was so sure I was dead. Oh my God. Okay. So Ingvar like lashes out with the shield and like catches him in the gut, and he like for a second as he like loses his breath. And then Ingvar will like grab the neck of his chainmail and smash his forehead into the guy's face, and then like take the sayax and shove it up under his armpit and like push it in there, and they're like face to face, and he'll like hold it and then twist it. and then pull it out finally, and like throw his head back and scream.
There's a wet splosh as the man's life begins to pour out of him, and he's going to make a grit check to try and grab hold of the blade of Bragi, which he certainly does. 20 all up, going to Valhall and reserving there a seat just for you.
Yeah, I'll actually kneel next to him, make sure that he can hold it. Like my bloody hands around his for a second, and then like barely being able to stand, pull my way back up.
The men of his, like a moan and a ripple of despair, like cut through them like an unexpected wind over a bluff, and a few look around fearfully, expecting crazed northerners to spill from the woods and slaughter them, looking around for what now will be their fate.
Rake will immediately rush over once the duel is done and the god's eyes are off to like grab hold of you to keep you standing, Ingvar, and make sure that you're like not going to bleed out. He'll begin like looking to tend to wounds, but he'll look to you, say, "What order should you give?" Not imagining he'll be able to yell right now.
Yeah, I think that Ingvar is like seeing like golden light from above and like Valkyries flying, like he's so close to dead, and he's like bleeding heavily from many wounds. But he like shakes his head slowly. Take them, as we said, captive.
The gods have decided. Odin has seen us right. We will hold to our word. Lay down your weapons. We'll take you in and do exactly as we've said.
The first of the blades gets cast down, then an axe, then a spear, and then like the heavy clunk of an oak shield, and then the dunk and rolling sound of a helm, followed by another, and a great cacophony as 30 or so weapons begin to be thrown down to the earth, proving the worth of an oath sworn inside of the gods. And those men will kind of instinctively, like sheep, move closer together after the surety that their arms and armor gave them is shed. And from the grim bluffs and ridges around and Thrymnir and the lines of Helgasker soldiers move up like a ring fort around these captives as the blood pool around Goldenfleece widens. He stares up through the autumnal canopy as the Valkyrie descends. And so too, the curtains close on this session of Fire in the North. We'll pick it up next week, the week after, with what happens henceforth. So thanks for playing, guys.
God. Thanks, Nico. That's great. Thanks for watching if you did.